Welcome to Take Two, a discussion of the times and current events. I'm joined as always by Adam Matlack and Mike Pomerantz. Today, I'd like your take on Justin Amash joining the presidential race and the implications for November.
I hope everybody's doing well. It's great to be back, and it's great to see you guys. So Justin Amash getting into the race at this point, and it's not even official, but let's assume he does go in and grabs that Libertarian Party nomination. Um, Look, there is a very dark circle of like a small black hole around Trump right now. We're recording this at the end of April, and he made the bleach comments last week, and his poop really stinks right now, and people don't want to get that stink on them. McConnell's like, I'm going to shut off the valve on helping the states. In part, that's McConnell hedging against the Trump loss. I don't think Justin Amash is looking to get elected president in 2020, but this is a unique opportunity. It was unique before coronavirus, and that, because of Trump, is why we saw so many Democrats jump in. You have only upside. You could be a second term, first term backbencher in the House, like Eric Swalwell, but you run and you get on TV, and all of a sudden people know who you are, and you have a different kind of credibility. And I think there's a right leaning version of this happening with Justin Amash, that he has already sort of staked out some ground away from Republicans, but has not wanted to join the Democrats. It's not like Jeff Vanderveer, who was a Democrat in New Jersey and then actually said, you know what, I am going to join the Republicans. I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder with Trump. Amish is looking to carve out a space for himself. And in a post-Trump, if he can get a little, get some reps, get some, get limbered up, get some practice, I think in a post-Trump election cycle, he could be really well thought of. He could be seen as a uniter. And I think this is part of a longer term plan, and I wish him well. I mean, he seems like a thoughtful guy, and I'm definitely interested to see what happens. But I don't think it has any. And we're talking at the end of April. Things could change monumentally over the next couple of days. But for what we have now, I don't think Amish is going to move the needle right now. Trump is looking like he's hurting. He's hurting in Florida. He's got to get his electoral college shit together, and Amish is only going to hurt that. So I think it's going to be a little tough for Trump, but I think it would be tough even without Amish. This doesn't help him.
Yeah, there's no question this doesn't help. I mean, Amash isn't going to be pulling Biden voters and Biden supporters here. I think Michigan, it might heavily affect Michigan. He might in the Wisconsin, any of those areas where he really resounds. But it's an interesting situation. One is because the convention's already happened. For the Libertarian Party. And so he wasn't there. He wasn't even on the ballot. He wasn't there. And so people are going to be putting up the votes here. I think soon. I think it's like 3 weeks or something like that. They're going to come to a nominee. And so, look, he's by far the most eloquent, powerful, already, in a position of power and respect that any libertarian candidate running for seeking president has ever been. I mean, there's a meme out there where you look at the libertarian ideas and it's a fox that's like super healthy, and then it's libertarian candidates and it's a fox that looks like it's been destroyed and matted and manged and it's probably on drugs. And so like that's what a lot of people think about libertarianism, and they think it's a joke. And there's a duality here of or just reality of the fact that there's two parties. This is a two-party system. We live in a two-party system. It's dominated by two parties, and that's not true everywhere. The UK is a good example of that, where it kind of has this flip, and there's these parties that kind of have power and don't. And I think there's a place for the Libertarian Party. I think the internet's helped that. But I think, interestingly enough, Amish is probably going to get the nom just because of who he is. He's been this, I mean, he's a pretty dang consistent guy. If you look at his voting record, it's very consistent. He is a respected person. Most people who know him apparently are really high on him as an individual. And man, does he come across eloquently, and he handles the hot box pretty well. And so I think he could easily be the best candidate ever put forward by the Libertarian Party. And if you look at the numbers, Jill Stein had an effect on the election in 2016. She 100% did. She resonated with enough people, likely pulled votes from the Democratic side, and hurt Hillary, maybe even cost her a state. And so I think on a national scale, Amish won't have any play. I think locally, up in the Midwest, he could absolutely have a Mideast area. He could absolutely Rust Belt. Really, he could steal some votes from Trump and make it hurt. If he were to magically get on the debate stage, he could literally tear up both of the candidates in a debate. It would look like one guy has his stuff together and the other two are lost, talking to each other. That won't happen, but if it magically did, it would be really interesting. I think Trump has problems with this, mainly because he's gone after Amish, and Amish is just brilliant at this. So he's got to tear, in terms of the sound bites and the media picking up on his sound bites. Amish is going to be attacking Trump a whole lot more than he attacks Biden. And so it's just another person, another media stalwart that's like, oh, he's a Republican, but he's running a Libertarian and he's against Trump. And I think that hurts Trump.
People before lockdown may have had more of a romantic reaction to an independent candidate. Whereas now I would imagine people are really looking to join forces, collaborate, work together. I think that is hopefully more of a human instinct under, these incredibly crazy conditions. But I will say that as Trump goes out and lights himself on fire, having any alternative that is not a tax and spend liberal is going to look good to a lot of old heads.
Oh, yeah.
And then the libertarian label is going to attract a lot of younger people.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this in the past, and Amish was not on the radar. But what I was jumping up and down about was how Bernie has managed to cobble together a movement around him. And the movement will continue, and it is continuing to move forward. The AOC wing of the Democratic Party, socialism writ large. But I had compared that there wasn't an equivalent person. I don't know if Amish has that kind of charisma. He could grow into it. He's very young, but it legitimizes the libertarian movement, which personally, from my point of view, I don't think it needs to be legitimized, but I hear what you're saying. There's a lot of people who look like that messed up fox. And so he is going to help clean that image. And then you could count all the foxes and you'll have more people. And, as a sort of a thing we can look at to see what's coming down the pike, I think it says a lot that someone as successful with that much ability is ready to take on this mantle. I mean, what was Johnson last time? He did not have it together. God bless him, but he did not have it together. This guy has been tested a little bit in the crucible of political politics as a Republican. I'm interested to watch it because so few of the people who get a lot of airtime have his level of intelligence and insight. And it's not just party dogma. So, for my purposes personally, I don't think it's going to hurt my candidate.
Sure. Principles are really important to me, and it's what people adhere to and kind of look at. And I think the Joe Rogan stuff, when he said, oh, who are you voting for? He said, I'm going to vote for Bernie. And they said, why? I was like, oh, because he's consistent. What he was saying 20 years ago is what he's saying now. And I think a lot of people will resonate with what you're saying, is that he'll be thrusted onto the stage now and be introduced. And there's a lot of people who won't know him but they will now if he wins this nom, because it'll be a legitimate alternative to somebody who's well spoken, doesn't look like a moron, and knows what Aleppo is when he's asked. And so like that's a big deal. These are all the things, those gotcha moments that I mean, but Johnson still pulled like what 4.5% of the vote.
Right.
So it's not like it's nothing. I mean, this idea that it doesn't matter, I think it does. I think the more electable he is, if look, it would really matter if Warren was the nominee, and you got Trump and Warren who are just totally just all the way on the other side. It would have been a dream scenario for Amish, in my opinion, or someone like Amish, because I think he would have then been able to pull some of these, the more moderate Democrats he could have pulled over. But with Biden, all the moderates are definitely going to vote for Biden. It just doesn't affect them at all. And so in a situation where if we get more polarized on the line, him being the position candidate matters in the future more than it does now. So
Richard, if we could just go on for one more second. I didn't think about this, Adam, until you just said it now. But if they are all three on a stage together, I mean, I don't count out the possibility that could happen. And my God, if it does happen, I mean, we all talk about how we get our predictions all wrong. If the three of them are on a stage together, man,
absolutely, it would
that could
legitimize
flip this thing upside down, right?
It really could. It really could, because he is that. I mean, and maybe I don't know him everything about him, but I watched his town hall when he dealt with the fallout of saying I'm leaving the Republican Party, and he went and faced his constituents straight in the eye and said, "Look, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. You can ask me any question, and I'll answer it all." And look, there's not a lot of people who run for political office who hold that kind of position who would be able to do that, have the gall to do it, and just being able to say, oh, okay, I'm going to just throw off all these guards and I'm just going to follow my principles. And this is somebody who can adequately communicate. Reagan was a great communicator to the point where they nicknamed him the great communicator. And this matters. If he can articulate, you got the bumbling guy, and then the guy who's just talking about how great he is all the time, and then this guy who's making tons of sense, who looks like a presidential candidate, who is like, people are gonna be like, wait a second, who is this? What does he believe? All these things. And I think there's a middle. If he pulled that lever and was on that stage, it would be something crazy to watch. So, never know.
See what happens.
All right, guys. Thanks for your time. That's all we've got for today. If you enjoyed our discussion, please be sure to like and subscribe below and join us for another edition of Take Two.